What's going on, guys? Jerry Neutron here, and today I wanted to share with you my first impressions of Google's new flagship device, the Nexus 6P. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this device is it is massive. It's got a 5.7-inch 1440p AMOLED display, 518 pixels per inch. So this screen is crispy. It's got pretty good viewing angles, accurate colors. Probably not the most visually appealing display on a flagship device at the moment, but it's still very good in its own right. And personally, I'm a fan of 1440p displays. I know a lot of people don't like them. My personal experience so far has been pretty good with 1440p displays, so I'm glad they've stuck with them. And it makes sense with a 5.7-inch display. Now, another reason that this phone is so massive is it actually comes with dual front-facing speakers. So if you do a lot of media consumption on your device, this is definitely going to be a big positive for you. So instead of having that single rear speaker in the back that a lot of devices have, you've got two up front firing directly at your face. Now initially I did find that at maximum volume levels, it did get a little bit distorted. I was expecting just a little bit better quality, but with that said, this still beats a single rear-facing speaker in terms of overall loudness. Now, in terms of build quality, this device feels pretty solid in the hand. I like it a lot. And Google says it's made from aeronautical grade aluminum, and it just feels like a premium device. It is a little bit heavy, weighing in at 178 grams, but honestly, it just feels really nice in your hand. And it doesn't have that glass back like some of the Samsung devices have, so you're not going to have any issues with the phone slipping out of your hand or accidentally dropping it. It's also a pretty slim device. And if we take a look at it all around, it's got your volume and power buttons on one side, which I think they're actually too close together, the volume and power button. Sometimes I find myself accidentally hitting the power button instead of the volume up, which will automatically lock the device. So I kind of wish they left a little bit more room in between those two buttons. But aside from that, you've got a headphone jack at the top of the device and then a Type-C connector at the bottom. And speaking of USB Type-C, this phone does support quick charging, and Google claims from 10 minutes of charging, you'll get 7 hours of battery life. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if that is amazing. I just got this phone in yesterday, so I haven't really had a chance to test this out yet, but I am going to do some real-world testing, and I'll definitely let you guys know what my results were in my final review. Now, one other thing this device does have going for it in terms of battery is the battery size on this device. It comes with a 3,450 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty solid when you think about it in comparison to the other flagship devices that are currently out there. Oh, and by the way, the battery is not removable on this device. There's also no expandable storage, so no SD cards on this device. So if that's something that you were looking for, I'm sorry, you're gonna be disappointed. That's not an option here. So anyway, moving along, on the back of the device, there is also a fingerprint scanner. Now, my experience with the fingerprint scanner so far has been pretty good. It works fairly quickly. The only thing I really don't like is that you still have to have a two-factor authentication even when using the fingerprint scanner. So in addition to that, you'll also have to set up either a pattern, a PIN, or a password if for some reason the fingerprint scanner doesn't work, or for some reason you need a second form of authentication. Now, photo-wise, you get a 12.3 megapixel rear-facing camera with a f2.0 aperture. It's got IR laser assisted autofocus, so you can quickly focus on your subject. Up to 4K recording at 30 FPS. There's also 120 and 240 FPS slow motion modes. Those are actually my favorite modes in working with this camera. Listening to something like your dog bark at 240 FPS is hilarious, so I highly recommend everyone go do that whenever you get this device. But I still need to play around with the camera a little bit more just to get a true sense of how good it is. I will say initial impressions, I don't feel it's as good as like an LG G4 camera, but I will save my final impression until the review. That way I could take some photos and get them on the computer and compare them side by side just to be sure. There's also an 8 megapixel front facing camera with an f2.4 aperture. It does record video up to 30 FPS at 1080p. Now internally, just a quick rundown, this is running Android 6.0 Marshmallow. It's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 processor. If you're not familiar with that, that is a 64-bit octa-core processor running at 2 gigahertz. And I haven't had any issues at all with it overheating. In fact, the phone has rarely gotten warm to the touch, so that is a good sign. It's also got 3 gigabytes of RAM. And overall, the device does feel pretty snappy. Navigating throughout the OS, I really haven't had any hiccups or really serious lag issues, so that's been a good experience for me. Now, when using the phone so far, I did get to experience some of the 6.0 changes, like the individual app permissions when opening up the camera. This also does give you kind of like an ambient display. So for instance, if you do get a notification, you can pick the phone up off your desk and look at it without turning on the screen, and it will display the time and your notification to you. But yeah, so far I think Google's definitely going in the right direction with this phone. I'm definitely excited to use it a little bit more. Like I said previously, I've only had it for about a day or so. So once I've gotten more experience with the device, I will definitely publish my full review for you guys. So make sure you subscribe so you can be notified of when that does go live. If you guys do have any questions, make sure to post them in the comments below. And let me know what you think about this device so far. So that's about it, guys. Go ahead and throw me a like if you found this video helpful or entertaining. And until next time, see ya. Today I wanted to share with you my first impressions of the Nexus 5X. Now, if you aren't familiar with this device, this is Google's more budget-oriented smartphone.